Welcome to Inspecting Construction Erosion Controls with some examples. This is put on by the Pacific Northwest chapter of the International Erosion Control Association, and I'll be the presenter today. My name's David Jenkins. I'm the chapter president. First off, I'd like to thank our chapter sponsors, our paid sponsors, Simon, Scarcella Brothers Construction, and Clearwater Services, make it possible for us to give money to poor students to come to the international conferences and hopefully get scholarships started next year. And then our member small businesses, so 10 employees or fewer, so Abco, Outpack, Faircloth Skimmer, and Clean Water Technologies, like to acknowledge them. And now for some shameless self-promotion. Please check out our chapter website, PNW-IECA.org, for upcoming events, access to our LinkedIn and YouTube channels, and all sorts of cool stuff. So this is a little bit old. This has an advertisement for last February's annual conference. The next annual conference is this coming February 2023 in Kansas City. And then in 2024, February, the international conference will be in Spokane. So put that on your calendar. So here's our YouTube channel. All of the webinars are posted up on our YouTube channel. They're free to use for in-house training. They're Creative Commons licensed, so you can kind of use them for whatever you want, just to spread the word. And some of you might have come in on our LinkedIn channel. This is our LinkedIn page, where we also post events. And with that, I'll get started with the actual presentation. This is going to be a little different. It's not really going to be about inspecting how silt fence is installed or whether somebody has catch basin inserts. There's plenty of information available online in stormwater manuals and on YouTube for those sorts of things. So this is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to focus this on water, especially for the Pacific Northwest, rainfall, stormwater, snow melt in some areas makes water the primary issue for us, especially since we're regulated by our state agencies for discharges. So this is an example of several water samples, and the samples are going to be based on the Washington state requirements. The sample on the left is 1 NTU measured with a turbidity meter. So basically drinking water. The center one is 25 NTUs, which is the number that Department of Ecology uses for you're good. Anything between 0 and 25, you're good. And the one on the right is 250 NTUs. So 250 and above, you're not all right, and you have to report to our state agency. So I assume other states have similar requirements, but I just want to note the 25 NTUs doesn't take much to achieve that. And pretty much any amount of eroded sediment will have enough fines in it to cause you to not meet that 25. This is a project in my neighborhood. I was driving by one day a month or so ago, and I just saw the top part of this pipe. And I've been watching out for this project because there's several acres draining down to this corner, and there's a creek to the back, to my back when I took the picture. So I thought, oh, this is good. They've got a pond, they're collecting their dirty water, and they're pumping up to a treatment system back on the site. And then I got out of my car one day and saw this. Oh, they're not. This does not look good. We got our first big rain overnight last night. In my neighborhood, I think we got just over an inch, probably in 12 hours, 10 or 12 hours. And this is what happened. So I do want to note that their sediment controls are working. So the sediment controls are doing what they're supposed to do. But we're not regulated on sediment in our state. We're regulated on turbidity. There is a catch basin somewhere under this muck. I don't remember exactly where it is, but it's covered up. So here's what it looks like. The water was draining. You can see the pipe inlet to the left inside the silt fence, which is doing what it's supposed to do. The silt fence looks great. And then water's draining down into the rock and then down into the silt fence, which also is working. However, turbid water easily went through the silt fence while the sediment was backed up. To the left down the hill is a salmon stream. So this is a disaster waiting to happen. And that's the point of this presentation, is to read your sites, assuming you're going out and you're driving out to a site and you have to inspect it maybe once a week or whatever. So read the site, what's going to happen when it rains, and act accordingly, I guess. Work with the contractor, work with the developer on how to prevent problems. So I'm going to focus again a lot on water and the effects of water on soil of any kind, and things to look for. So catch basin, you can see stuff's been draining into it. I'm not concerned that there's not a catch basin insert in there. There probably should be, but again, insert's not going to do anything for turbidity. So you really want to prevent. Another example of that, you've probably all seen steel plates on projects and know that that's covering an open hole, like a manhole. So first question to ask when you go on site and you see a catch basin is to ask, is this a live system? Is this hooked up yet? Is it hooked up to on-site stormwater systems? Is it hooked up to existing city or county systems? And know that all the water, that's clean water that's draining off the asphalt, draining down through the dirt here, is going into this catch basin or this hole, and it's going somewhere. So first question again is to ask, is this live? If it is, get it plugged. If it's not live, it's going to be demoed, or it's plugged, or it's an old catch basin. No big deal. So this is a fairly frequent occurrence where the site is just too active and there's just too much going on to have everything clean, all the asphalt clean all the time. So this poor catch basin, which doesn't have an insert in it, which again is great for all of the sediment that the insert would pick up, but isn't going to do anything for turbidity. So same question, is this a live catch basin? And in this case, it happens to be. So here is a practice. A lot of people don't like this, but if you are okay with ponding of water and you really want to protect a catch basin, to protect a live storm system, then just completely block it, either this way or put plugs in the pipes. I meant to put some slides in here on plugs, so I'll just mention briefly. If you're going to plug pipes, only use air plugs for maybe a day or two. They fail. They fail all the time. People don't check the air pressure. They get slow leaks. So a day or two on those. If you need to plug for a bit longer, maybe up to a week or so, mechanical plugs can work if they're installed properly. But anything longer than that, they really need to be grouted, grout the pipe shut to be taken out when the project's done. Here's a little thing to look for with catch basins. So they're ready for asphalt pretty much, but they don't want the grade to have water in it, so they left a little drain hole. So even if this doesn't have a catch basin insert, but even if it did, it doesn't matter. Turbid water is going to be going in. So is it live? Is it grouted? Encourage contractors to grout their manholes, their rings, everything associated with storm as soon as it's installed. Don't wait, because if it is a live system or tying into a live system, it's just sucking muddy water. Below grade systems, manholes. This looks like it has some plastic in it, but it's very easy for these to get damaged and to leak. So keep an eye on those sorts of things. And same question, see these a lot. This one is not hooked up yet, but if it was hooked up, this is a real problem. So just be aware and ask a lot of questions. Talk to the contractor about what's going on. If you do put visqueen or PVC or something under a catch basin to keep water from going in, just be aware that people don't like ponded water on their sites, and somebody will go stab a hole or several holes in the plastic and drain it. So something to be aware of and to point out to the contractor. It's good that you're keeping water out of the catch basin because it's a live system. It's bad that you're draining it by poking holes. So talk to all your people on site and let them know this is not okay. I think this one goes without further discussion. And this one is it is really an example of a good thing. So utilities are going in at some point. Contractor ground up the asphalt but left it in place, and it allows water to infiltrate. This is a live storm system. It's going into somebody else's storm system, which they're regulated for their discharges. So we can't have anything going in. So it's completely blocked at the grate, and then overflow is going back into the ground to the right. So good thing. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? I say it's a good thing. The water's not going anywhere. It's being contained on site. It's probably providing a little buffer area for the contractor. They can pump the water into a truck to haul it off. Potentially this is too dirty, but if the water wasn't quite this dirty, they might be able to pump it into sanitary. So yeah, always look for opportunities to do things like this and work with the contractor on that. Roof drainage. It's a massive project, and roof drainage probably would have been very difficult to deal with, but on everything from housing developments to concrete tilt ups or anything like that. Just be aware that when it rains, when you're at many stages of construction, you're going to have a lot of clean water draining off and draining into bare dirt probably. So keep that in mind and figure out ways to have the contractor collect the water and pipe it to storm or wherever it's eventually going to end up when the project's done, just to keep it off the dirt. So on housing developments, encourage the contractor to get the gutters up as quickly as possible and hook up to the drainage system. This is always a bad thing for an inspector to see when you drive up is, okay, what are we pumping out here? This water wasn't real bad, but it did not meet the 25 NTUs for sure. And in this case, we're pumping out tidally influenced water, groundwater. So, keep an eye on these sorts of things, work with the contractor to help them figure out what to do if they need to dewater. What are their options? Is there an area on the site they can pump it to? Is there vegetation? Can they use it for dust control somewhere? Whatever. But pumping it into the street is generally not a good idea. This is one I drove by. This is actually up on Highway 20 near Republic 25, 30 years ago. I did a quick U-turn when I saw it out of the corner of my eye and thought, that's not right. So diesel tank, diesel generator, and pump, or not a diesel generator, but a diesel pump for project water pumping out of the creek, which I'm not sure is even legal. But what happens if somebody bumps that guardrail and tips the drum over? So, just keep your eye open for all of these sorts of potential problems that could be disastrous in some cases, and get them taken care of before they become a disaster. A lot of things occur that are nobody's thinking, nobody's putting two and two together, I guess. So maybe the plan sheet shows a rock construction entrance in some location for some distance, and then that's it. Somebody didn't communicate that we're going to be putting asphalt down next week. and connect the dots and run the rock right to the asphalt so that vehicles can stay on some material rather than dirt the whole time. These are kind of after the fact, the next couple of slides, but if you're working, if you're designing plans or reviewing plans before they go out on the street, something like that, or if it's something that you can get the contractor to change, putting a tire wash in way back in the site and then allowing trucks to drive through dirt after that before they go on asphalt is generally not a good idea. Actually, it's never a good idea. So placement of something good, it turns out to be a bad thing. Where I worked at the Port of Seattle, no visible track out was allowed. So this is a violation of the contract. Fortunately, not a port project, but just, if you be aware that once tires are dirty on a project, there's no sediment control that's going to take care of it before the trucks leave. So it doesn't matter if you use grizzlies, you use rock. If the tires go on it dirty, they're going to go out dirty. So it's either a site management, watch where people go, or have haul roads and trucks stay on haul roads, or have a tire wash, things like that. So here's another example of the tire wash way back in. Again, just when you pull up to a site, just be aware and think, what's going to happen when it rains? Well, three things are going to happen here as water is screaming down this access road. It's going to go into a live storm system in the catch basin. It's going to go down the asphalt access road to the business to the right and into their swale that's to the right. So, identify these things on sunny days so they can get fixed before you get the rainy days. Silt fence is very effective for certain things and very ineffective and inappropriate for a lot of other things. This is definitely an inappropriate. So if you see something like this, have the contractor pull it out and put in a regular check dam that's installed per stormwater manual requirements. Same with something like this. They're trying to protect the swale, the curb cut access into the swale. And this makes no sense. Apparently somebody didn't tell the contractor what they needed to do, where a few sandbags or some cold patch would have done the job even better. And another inappropriate use of silt fence. And a whole bunch of inappropriate uses of silt fence. If the point is to manage water draining off the site, then dirt berms, check dams, rock, just ditches, water bars, things like that can be used to direct water. Silt fence really isn't the appropriate method for doing that. This actually is, I think this was a underground storage tank removal, an old home heating oil tank, and they use silt fence to keep people from falling in the hole. So this is an okay use of silt fence. It's cheap stuff. And, if I saw that, if I pulled up to this job, I would look and see what's going on and I wouldn't say anything. It's, no big deal. It's not a water quality issue. And then there's fugitive dust. If you're working on a site, have the contractor use appropriate methods like, do you have water? Can you spray this stuff down before you do it? Can you drop from a little bit lower height? Can you drop the soil a little slower? How can you do this? They'll figure it out. Sweepers, same thing. Are they using water? Does the water system function? Is this the right way to be cleaning up the excess chips on a chip seal project? So communication is probably the best BMP, I guess. So you drive up to this site, see what's going on. Let's see, they're digging, they're excavating, they've got asphalt berms directing clean water away. They've got They're collecting the dirty water inside and they're pumping it. So this is a great practice contractors using. I would just say, check to see where they're pumping to, that they're not pumping to another catch basin. In this case, they're pumping to a hole back on the project. So that's a good thing. Use materials, suggest the contractor use materials efficiently or effectively. So they've got to put down crushed rock to extend the asphalt. Put a little berm, make a little crushed rock berm along the edge, and instead of installing a standard BMP, just use the materials you've got on hand. They can blade it out later. I keep beating this to death, but always think about the rain when you're going out onto a site. When it rains, what's going to happen? As soon as asphalt goes down, you've got massive amounts of clean water that are going to drain somewhere. So you want it to go where you want it to go. You don't want it to go in places that are going to cause problems. Like here, the curbs aren't in. So water is going to go screaming down the asphalt. It's going to drain down this dirt ditch area. And that's happens to be a wetland to the top right. So, see these things. It's not raining yet. Have the contractor put in some temporary curbing, sandbags, or something like that. Landscaper, you're going to have landscaping done. It's going to be raining in a couple of days. They want to bring in their special soil. Work with them to figure out the best place to put the soil rather than on the asphalt that would drain into a live storm system. Temporary stockpiles. This is the inappropriate use of a standard erosion control practice, straw wattles. Using them on asphalt is not appropriate because they don't contain, water goes under them, goes around them. So this would probably be better done with asphalt curbing or something, sandbags or something like that. Trenches can be a good thing. So for containing project water when it is raining. So, keep that in mind. Know where the utilities are going, work with the contractor. If it's rainy season or something, maybe some trenches could be left open a little bit longer than they would have originally planned for to contain water. And then just look for things like this and kind of figure out what the problem is and what you can do about it. This also is a live storm system. Landscapers put in the irrigation system, tested it, and one of the pipe joints blew or something like that. And a lot of mud was washed out of the landscape island and down into the catch basin. Concrete management. This used to be allowed, at least in the state of Washington. If you were going to be pouring concrete later, you could wash out in an area. This isn't allowed anymore. So look for these sorts of things and work with the contractor on better ways to manage it, like washing into pans, for example, or in some cases on a large pour where the batch plant is close enough, within 20 minutes or so, just have them not wash off and take it back to the plant, wash off there. So here's the standard practice for washing out concrete trucks or chutes, but be aware that they do fill up. You can pump the water and slurry back into a truck. I've seen this done, but don't let it get over full because the pH on this stuff is really high and will cause problems. So just make sure the contractor is staying on top of these sorts of things and getting them serviced before they get to this point. Look for things like this, staging area covered with crushed rock, and then here's this big dark area. What's going on? A drum probably full of concrete curing compound or some such with no bung in place. So every time it rains, it's overflowing. And that was the cause of it. So be proactive on all of this stuff. Think about what's going on, what's going to happen, what could happen. So safety can, which is safe, they tip over, they don't necessarily leak. They're not supposed to leak. But if they tip over and go in the bay, that's really not a good thing. So, you know, have the contractor, have the laborers manage their gasoline a little better than they have on this one. Put it in secondary containment, keep it off the dock, keep it away from the water. And that's kind of funny one, but so maybe 1 can or 2 cans at the max per secondary containment. So secondary containment is what has to be able to contain 110% of the largest container. So I guess you could call this 1 container, or 3 containers as 1, maybe in this case. Will that hold 15 gallons? I don't know. Probably not. Equipment leaks, you know, not just from engine and hydraulics on the piece of equipment, but also on attachments. So this is a small spill of hydraulic, but these can be put in the kiddie pools or some kind of secondary containment when they're not being used. And make sure the secondary containment is workable, actually will contain. As you see, this one has been run over so many times. This is not going to contain water. So in this case, told the contractor, get new ones, get this out of here. I don't want to see them when I come back tomorrow. So here we go. So they've lifted the compactor, plate compactor into a nice new kiddie pool. So that's a good practice. Saw cutting, I think everybody's aware of the need to vacuum as you saw cut, so slurry doesn't get driven through or dry out and turn into dust. So this is an interesting one. The city required perimeter controls, and their perimeter control requirement was silt fence. So we had a discussion questioning how you install silt fence on asphalt, and they agreed that sandbags would be a good perimeter control for this. So erosion and water quality issues can come from any size project. So any size project, every size project needs to have thought put into it. And some kind of discussion, even if it's just with some laborers or it's with a foreman or whatever. Okay, you're going to cut through 8 inches of concrete and install posts. So you've got to dig out for the posts, and what's going to happen with the dirt. You're going to stick it on the surrounding concrete for it to wash away in the rain. Or it could have been put in a wheelbarrow and taken to a stockpile and covered up. So just, again, communicate and think about what's going on and what could happen. This one is, you know, may not look good. Maybe the original plan would have called for silt fence, but the fact that they were going to be scraping below the surrounding grade, and they were going to be able to push up a sod berm on the edges, then really the only issue is to put up a fence to keep people from wandering, keep equipment from wandering into other areas, and to keep people from tripping over the berm, I guess. So all that's needed is safety fence in this case, no silt fence. I think this might be the last one. So is it a problem or is it not a problem? Well, this is well within the site. The leak is probably from a leaky water truck. I don't know. Vehicles are driving through it. They're getting muddy, but they're not going out a construction entrance or exit. So it's well within the site. I would suggest to the contractor that they fix their water truck and they not allow this to happen. It's going to just create potential problems later. But in this particular case, this is not an issue, and I wouldn't make a big deal of it with the contractor. So And that is it. You can unmute yourselves if you have any questions. And if there's no questions, again, please check out our website for more information, membership information, upcoming events, things like that. So PNW-IECA.org. And there's also some contact information on there if you think of questions later. You can email us and we'll get back to you. Hopefully quickly, sometimes not, but we'll get back to you. And with that, I'm going to end it. Thank you all for attending. And please keep in mind, we're trying to do these once a month. We tentatively have one planned for mid-November. It'll be on the boatyard NPDES permit, the new one that's out, at least for the state of Washington. So I think that's what it's going to be, unless that changes, and then I don't know what. But keep it in mind. Again, thank you so much for attending, and have a good Halloween.